Oh, what a day, what a day. I know I need to get away. Oh.
This is Chef Aborshad. Today's recipe is hand-up orange petite cakes, and this is a very easy recipe to make. This starts off with the easy 1 bowl pound cake, which uses the reverse creaming method, and then we're going to create 3 variations. The first variation will be the cake plain with nothing on it. The second variation will be the cake dipped in melted chocolate, and the third variation is the white wine glaze that will go on. The cake will actually be dipped in it. You'll be able to find the amount of ingredients that you'll need in the bottom of the video. So let's go ahead and start this recipe. Here is the mise en place for the first step of the cake. This is 3 tablespoons of whole milk at room temperature, a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1½ teaspoons of vanilla extract, and I'm using clear vanilla here. You can use regular if you want. This is a 1/2 tablespoon of zest from a blood orange. If you can't find blood oranges, you can use a regular orange. This is a 1/4 cup of freshly squeezed blood orange juice, 3 large eggs at room temperature, 13 tablespoons of unsalted butter at room temperature, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, and if you are weighing your ingredients like I did, this will be 150 grams. This is 1½ cups of cake flour that is sifted. And again, if you're weighing your flour like I did, this will be 150 grams. Keep in mind that when you weigh sugars and flours, because they're heavier, when you convert it to cups, they will be different. And finally, I did sift in here 1 teaspoon of baking powder. It is important when you bake to sift any rising agents that you're adding to it, because if you don't, you'll have clumps and you will bite down into it when you eat the cake. And here I have an 8x8 buttered and floured baking tin, and this is just a square one. You can use whatever you have, but I'm using a square one because these are going to be little orange petite cakes. Of course, your oven needs to be preheated. This doesn't use the typical creaming process that you're used to. This is using the reverse creaming process. So into the bowl will go the flour, baking powder, salt, and the butter. Well, before we add the butter, mix this for a few seconds. Add the sugar. Mix it again for a few seconds. Just to make sure that all the dry goods are well incorporated. Then add the butter. Now before we add the butter, we're going to combine all the wet ingredients. So combine the orange zest, eggs, orange juice, milk, and vanilla. Beat that together. Okay, so it's been 1 minute exactly. You need to scrape the bowl down very well. The importance of scraping is to make sure that you don't have any clumps of flour or ingredients that is not mixed properly. So always scrape when baking. And you can use all-purpose flour if you can't get your hands on cake flour, but just keep in mind that your cake may come out more dense and it may come out kind of crumbly. But because this cake has orange juice in it, it should come out just fine because of the acidity in the orange will break down the flour to keep your cake from being too tough and too dense. But you can use, but it's better to use cake flour or pastry flour. Now we're going to add the remaining egg mixture in 2 more additions, beating 30 seconds afterwards. So I'm going to add half of this remaining egg mixture. start off on low just to keep everything from splashing out, and then beat for 30 seconds on medium speed. Okay, we're going to give this another scrape, add the remaining egg mixture, and beat it for an additional 30 seconds. And then we're going to bake this. Okay, and that's it. So scrape everything off. Give your bowl a good scrape, and then this is going to go in that 8x8 baking tin, which I'm going to go ahead and do that now. This is my 8x8 baking tin. Just scrape down your bowl very good. Make sure everything's mixed before you add it into your pan. Look at that gorgeous batter. You can see all those little specks of orange zest. This is going to go in your preheated 350 degree oven, and for about 45 minutes to an hour. Begin to check it at about 30 minutes, so that way you'll know how much longer this needs to be in the oven. Okay, my cake took about 34 minutes to bake. Surprisingly, because usually in another type of pan it usually takes about 45. So bake your cake for about 30 minutes and do check it. I put a knife in and it came up clean. As you can see here, it's pulling away from the side of the pan. That's an indication that the pan has been buttered and floured pretty good and the cake is done. So I'm going to let this cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then I'm going to flip it onto a cooling rack, and I'm going to let it cool completely. Okay, my cake is completely cooled off. I had it in the fridge for about an hour after it became room temperature. So now I'm going to cut the cake. I'm going to cut this approximately 4 rows, and then 4 rows that way. I'm going to show you the inside of the cake so you can see the texture is very moist. It's not dry at all. If your cake texture comes out crumbly, it's because you either used all-purpose flour, your ingredients wasn't at room temperature, and possibly because you overbeat the cake or you didn't mix the ingredients properly by scraping. So now we're going to move to the next stage, which is to make the chocolate. I'm going to put these pieces into the freezer because we need to have them in the freezer for at least 30 minutes. So after these have been in the freezer for about 25 minutes, I'm going to start making the chocolate, and I'll show you how to do that. So you want the water to not touch the bottom of the bowl, but just enough to melt the chocolate to heat the bowl, because chocolate is very gentle. So I have here about 5 ounces of milk chocolate. And I'm just going to stir this until it melts. And now I'm going to throw in 1.5 ounces of dark chocolate. And just stir this. And the dark chocolate that I used was the bittersweet, and it's 70% cocoa content. Do not bring your water to a boil. Don't let your water boil because it will make the chocolate seize up. So you have to be very patient. So I'm going to turn the heat off, and we're going to work quickly at dipping our cakes in this. have my sheet pan here lined with a cooling rack, and I just want to show you, just for a neater presentation, just cut the edge off the cake straight down on all, and just do that on all the edges of your cake. That's the edges that was against the pan of the pan in the corner. So I have my melted chocolate over here in the bowl, and I'm just gonna take the tips of a fork and just gently pierce the cake, and just roll the cake into the chocolate. And then just place this into your rack to allow the chocolate to drain off. So I'm going to do this with the cakes that I have until I'm out of chocolate. So now I'm going to do the next glaze. This is some icy sugar. I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of icy sugar. And I'm going to add a little bit of white wine. This is about 3 tablespoons of white wine. I'm going to mix that. If you don't want to use white wine, you can use vanilla extract, or you can use milk. Just mix this until it's very smooth. I'm not going to add any more wine yet because I just need to see where this is at. So now you see it's very smooth, but I want it to be a little bit more runny. And then about a teaspoon. So now I'm going to take the cakes. These are still somewhat frozen. I'm just going to roll the cakes around in the glaze. I'm going to place it on my rack and just shake it to get it off. And just do that with the next few cakes. Here are the cakes, and as you see, the inside of it is very moist, and you can see what it looks like on the outside when the chocolate hardens and when the white wine glaze sets, and then even the plain ones that's not dipped in anything. I hope you guys try this recipe and enjoy it. Please do not forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. By subscribing, you get to see new videos by me every Wednesday and Saturday. And also, check out my other YouTube channel. This will be strictly baking, teaching you how to become expert bakers. And soon videos will be uploaded there, and that's youtube.com/baking with Chef Avor.
See if there's truth behind the stories that